I'm Chala Dinkoy. I am the CEO and founder of The Repositioning Expert. What I do is I help people, B2B mostly, figure out their super niche so that they can differentiate their message, so that they can stand out from everybody who does the same thing as they do in their market, and so that they can 10x the number of leads that they have in the pipeline and be able to get more sales. And so it's for who we've concentrated on are coaches and consultants in this training who want more leads and more sales through a differentiated strategy. So how many of you, if you can say me, just type in the chat, me, who is a coach or a consultant? Okay, so Joyce sees me on the large screen. Okay. All right. So let's see how many people are going to be a coach or consultant. All right. Now, why am I qualified to teach this, you guys? And so, yeah, so quite a few of you are coaches and consultants, and that's great because that was what we were building in this model. And if you're not, then there will be an interactive portion where we can find out how to use this for you. And it absolutely works for every type of business, but we are today talking to coaches and consultants mainly. Okay, so what did I do? Why am I qualified to talk to you? For 18 years, I worked for giant corporations, started my career with PepsiCo, where they rotated me into different divisions of different companies that they owned, called the on-premise beverages, the Pepsi, then the Frito-Lay, which is the snacks division, and then the restaurants, which is at the time was Pizza Hut. And then I went on to another giant manufacturer of alcohol, which is called Diageo, where I managed brands like Smirnoff and Bailey's and Tanqueray and Gordon's. And then went on to another giant. And I have always worked for huge, the market share leaders in every industry. So the last company that I worked for was called BIC. And they do pens, and they do shavers and lighters, and I manage the pen category. So for 18 years, you guys, I worked for these amazing brands, and 18 years I spent saying no thank you, no thank you, no thank you to every vendor who came my way. And it's not because I wasn't nice. It's not because I was trying to be difficult, but it's because of so many reasons. But the number one reason is probably what brings you here today, is because 86% of buyers cannot tell the difference between one supplier and another. So it's because I always had whatever they were pitching me already hired. It's because we had so many levels of decision makers in the room that we wanted nothing to do with any more vendors and to try to develop relationships with even more vendors. There were so many reasons why I said no to people over 18 years. And then I decided to take everything that I'd learned, because some people did get through all those horrible high filters that we all had on the purchasing side of these very, very sexy brands. They did get through, and I noticed how they got through and why they got through, and decided to, after receiving so many horrible pitches from so many companies for 18 years, I mean, some giants of their own industries were pitching to us, and they were so horrible that I decided that I would teach now these companies, the smaller companies, how to pitch to the larger companies. And in doing that, I learned how to develop a strategy to differentiate the business any way that they needed to, whether it was a B2B, a B2C, a big company, a small company. Like in the next week, I'm going to be speaking to a group of $1 billion CEOs that are B2B. And guess what, you guys? It's the same content, because it is the same pain, because the only difference is scale, because they need to still do this thing that I'm going to teach you on this very 90-minute education. Okay, so what you're going to learn today is you're going to learn how to stand out and get attention. You're going to learn how to uncover this thing that I call a super niche, and I'm going to explain what that is to you. And you're going to learn how to message this differentiated super niche to attract this new set of incremental prospects and clients and fill your funnels through that way. Now, this has worked for me. And here's what I've created in my career. Just since the last 8 years since I've had my own business, I've been a regularly featured expert on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox 20 times in the last couple of years, all throughout mostly the US and just one appearance in Canada, even though I'm Canadian and I live in Canada. I've spoken at amazing places like NASDAQ and Harvard Club of Boston. And when you speak at NASDAQ, they actually put a picture of you on the Jumbotron in New York Times Square. I was there last December. So these are things that I've achieved, and I've written 4 books, all to do with the TV, but also it's one of the things that you're going to get if you stick around till the end of the 90 minutes is you're going to get a copy of my book called Gentle Marketing, How to Gently Attract Clients, loads of clients instead of chasing them. And so I've spoken, I've looked at how many conferences that I spoke at in the last 8 years since I started my business. And it's been over 100 conferences. And it has been my pleasure to do that. And as you know, the conference business has gone away almost. It is online now, but let me tell you, it is a very different experience. And here I am today. There are no slides here, you guys. There's no notes, there's nothing, there's just notes for me, but it's whatever notes you take for yourself. Now, in the longer education that I provide, like the 5-day ones, we send out a workbook, and some of you are from there and you know this, you recognize this, but this is it. This is me on the new stage after COVID. This is my stage, you guys. It is face-to-face. I am looking at you, and I'm going to be looking at you when I ask you to turn on your cameras. So this is what my career has been like, is that it's been all, travel and conferences, and I've been so fortunate to speak at the best. And now this is it. Now, what earning a living doing what I do has allowed me is the freedom. I'm a single mom. I have an 11-year-old who's special needs. He's highly functioning on the spectrum of autism. And so I have all the time in the world to be able to take him anywhere I want, to all the specialists that he needs. I have the amazing latitude to have the income for the extra specialists and for his special school. And I have all the time in the world to work on my personal passion and hobby, which is fitness. So I write a fitness blog. If you get onto my newsletter, if you're here, you're probably going to get a newsletter, if you haven't already, with my photo shoot, my recent photo shoot of, I blog about my nutrition. I blog about, I'm 50. So, hashtag fit over 50 is what I often do my blog under. So these are some of the things that I have time for and the energy for, because what I do allows me this lifestyle. And I want to teach you to do the same if these are some of the things that you want for yourself. And it didn't always go that way, right? It didn't start off that way. So let me tell you about when I first became a coach. I had always wanted to have my own business, even while I was working at corporate. In fact, it took me 7 years to leave my last job because it was so cushy. I just kept getting more money. It was just so hard to leave when I had really no clients waiting for me if I left. And I'll always thank this woman, who was bipolar and had a huge, issue at work with me. And it was really, really hard to work with her, and management just ignored the problem. So any of you who do leadership and HR coaching and consulting out there, you can hear me. You understand this is probably something you run into all the time, but I thank her every day because I left because of her finally, after 7 years of having certified and, having paid for my website and having paid for coaching and having done all of that. So once I certified with the International Coach Federation, I went out into the market. I left my job, and promptly I was eating ramen and starving because, well, at the time, my husband's job wasn't enough to keep us at the standard of living that we were accustomed to. And I couldn't find any clients. And the reason for that, you guys, is because guess how much the average, or it's actually the median, which is a different number than the average, which is, the top and the bottom in the middle. The median income for an International Coach Federation annual study revealed that the median for an average coach income was $20,000. And the reason for that is because I learned this because when I would speak at their association meetings and I would ask the crowd to stand up if they were, let's say, a leadership coach, half the room of hundreds and hundreds of people would stand up because there was no differentiation, you guys. Again, this 86% of buyers can't tell the difference. It was so painful for all of us. And it translated to not being able to get meetings, not being able to even just be able to express what I do differently. Because to say that you're different based on the number of years of experience that you have, your education, or your service, or that it's customized, or that it's cheaper. Everybody is saying these things, you guys. This is not a differentiator. And if you think those are differentiators, you're not alone. Because when I survey CEO groups, and I'm talking about multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar CEO groups, they're in the same boat. They think they're differentiated, and they're not. It's because what they think is differentiated, buyers don't think is differentiated. And this is absolutely true for B2B and B2C. The only exception is if you're a Swiffer, what I call a Swiffer in your industry, which is somebody finds a gap in the market, which is what the makers of Swiffer did when they did consumer research, and they found that busy moms and dads are looking for disposable and cheap cleaning products so that they can wipe the floor and they can throw it out in the garbage without hurting their budget too much. And that's what a Swiffer was. It came and it covered this amazing, amazing opportunity, this gap in the marketplace. And that's what I want to teach you. I want to teach you how to find that gap in the marketplace. I'm trying to move and it's just not letting me. So I think I'm just going to do this. Yeah, sorry. I don't want to look cross-eyed. Okay, so here we go. There we go. Okay. I'm just readjusting. This world of online training, you guys, it's different. Have you guys seen the picture of this? I don't know how many people joined Tony Robbins on his virtual live, and he had to build a platform separately with Zoom to be able to host that. It was insane. And you guys, that's on my Mind movie. Like I've made a Mind movie just recently, and it's mind blowing. I mean, that's the future that I want, and it's mind blowing. And so you guys are in my Mind movie. So you guys are the beginnings of that kind of dream for me, that I'm going to have that kind of an audience. And I want the same for you. I want you to have the same. Maybe you don't, but I want you to have the same. Okay. So, the next thing that I'm going to go to, so I told you about, if you stay to the end, you get my free ebook called Gentle Marketing, How to Gently Attract Loads of New Customers. But no problem, because you're going to stay till the end, because we're going to do lots of work in this 90 minutes, and we're going to have a guest coming in. And yeah, Jamie she says she always wanted to be in the movies. That's right. Okay. Now, how will learning how to super niche help you skip over the landmines and the pitfalls that I fell into when I became a coach and I was starving because there was no differentiation? And no matter what I invested in, you guys, I invested in Facebook ads, I invested in LinkedIn, I invested in sales reps, I invested in trade show booths, I invested in memberships. And oh my God, I did everything I knew how to do, and it still went nowhere, because when you're shouting the wrong message and it's vague, you're still broke. Just shouting it louder is not going to help. So this is one of my new favorite sayings, is vague equals broke, right? I don't know how many times I've met, I've been meeting with a lot of you offline prior to coming here so that I could figure out exactly what you needed in terms of the content. And I'm so happy to have connected with a lot of you. And the rest of you who did not connect with me will have a chance later. I'll give you some information and instructions on how to do that. But vague, that's what I saw, is the number one message that I have to give you is vague equals broke. Okay. And that's your messaging, and your messaging is all you have between you and the prospect. Okay. So these are the ways that I'm going to help you skip over the landmines. So the mistakes that I made, that I learned when I was a coach is, one, I was no different. Okay. Hold on. I have my tea. And by the way, today is Tuesday tea time with Shala. So come in and watch. It's every night, every Tuesday night at 7:30. So that's where I have my tea. So I'm used to doing that, except for that one, I'm sitting at the couch. I'm sitting like in a chair. So the mistake I made that I don't want you to make is, as a coach, I was no different. Number two is I wasn't niched or super niched. And number three is I spent money on every marketing tactic and I got nowhere, because without the strategy, I was still shouting the vagueness louder. Vague is still vague, even if you pay money to shout it louder. Okay. Now, where I'm now is, and what I'm most excited to gift you today is the fact that I now make 4 times what I used to make in the corporate world. Okay. And, of course, that was changed since COVID, but I am rapidly gaining on the period where I had to learn how to shift and pivot into the online space, because my teams had to pivot. I had to get new teams that knew and spoke the language of online. I had to learn how to deliver online. Instead of walking around a stage, I had to learn how to do this. So I figured out how to carve out my super niche. So first, what is my super niche? A super niche is basically, and we're going to get to a little bit more detailed what it is, but it's basically picking one very specific industry target or interest group target, depending on B2B or B2C. And then it's switching, and then it's being able to figure out what is the problem that you help them solve, and getting really, really, really specialized in that. So that's called your super niche. And what I first did when I became a coach is the training from the ICF, and I went to Coach You, is very generic. So you can do, with the same training, you can do personal coaching and leadership coaching and business coaching. Now they have courses for everything in there. You can take it all, and the training's all basically the same. So I came out and I couldn't decide what kind of coach I was going to be. So I became a very generic coach. Remember, generic and vague equals broke. So I was broke. The next, I started to think like a marketer, and I started to remember when I used to launch new products every single year. I launched like from 7 to like 20 new products in a given year, depending on what I was doing. Like when I worked for Bic Pens, I used to manage 720 SKUs, because we had the whiteout, we had the highlighters, we had the markers, we had but we had the pencils, we had the pens, we had the rollers, and we had the Schaefer. So I can go on, but that's what I learned, is that I have to figure out how to carve a space out for myself the way that I used to do when I launched these brands. Because when I launched the brands, I used to do the market research to figure out, well, where am I going to put this new product on the same shelf or near shelf, so that I don't cannibalize the sales for the brand, so that I grow, right? Why else would you grow the brand? Why else would you launch? You would launch because you're trying to grow the actual revenue, which is what I'm teaching you today. Is you're going to be doing that. You're going to be super niching, and in essence, launching a new brand for yourself, so that you can incrementally increase the size of your business, right? Okay. So what I did is I made all those mistakes as a coach. And then now, as you know, like I make so much more money. I spend as much time as I want with my hobbies. Like I volunteered before COVID at a men's prison. I always talk about how I teach them how to be their own boss. And I spend as much time with my family. And one of the things that I really like about having my own business, I don't know about you guys, but I really, and especially if you get good at getting clients, I really like who I work with. So I choose not only who I hire and work with and spend time with and I see every day, but I also choose who hires me. So, I mean, it's a wonderful luxury to be able to have, because after 18 years of working for giant brands and working with every kind of human being there was, you didn't get a choice in working with dead wood or somebody who was mentally ill. You had no choice. You had to work with them. And sometimes they were your boss, right? So that's what this super niching has afforded me, the ability to spend the deep time with my clients and afford, the private school. And of course, there's the luxuries of having, my dream car that has the 3 letters I always joke about. And so I want you to think about like what this is going to do for you and your business. If you uncover your profitable super niche sweet spot, I want you to imagine all of the things that you're going to have access to. And so remember, what you're going to do is once you uncover the sweet spot, one, you're going to get clear on your target. You're going to know exactly where to go. And two, you're going to know how to find that gap in the market. So once you do that, it doesn't matter what the market conditions are, everything can change, but you'll still be able to find that gap. And the third is how you're going to learn today, how do you message that? How do you find it? And then how do you message it so that you can get to the buyer, so that you can engage them and you can get their interest so that they are asking for a meeting with you? That's the whole idea, right? By the time you walk out of here, I want you to have a really good idea of what this concept of super niching is and how it can apply to you. Okay, so when we get into the participation, so what's going to happen is I'm going to do 3 points of teaching, and in every part, at the end of every part, there's going to be a participation, and that's when I want everybody to turn on their cameras and their sound, and I want participation so that we can get to find out about each other's businesses, and we can find out how I can give you a few suggestions around what the topic of the exercise is. Okay, you guys? So if you have to put on your lipstick or brush your hair, please go ahead. You have to put, I mean, this morning I had a call with a gentleman. I don't know if he's here, but there was I could see the naked arm of another gentleman in the back. So I wasn't sure if the rest of him was naked. So let's try to remove all the naked people from the background. I've heard such funny stories since, this whole COVID thing and the Zoom. Yes, I know, Crystal, I know. It was funny. And he laughed. We laughed together. And luckily the rest of the gentleman was not naked. Okay. So I'm going to show you. Oh yeah. So pull out your pen and paper and take the notes, because I'm not giving you any notes. This recording is not available to you after. I'm available to you, but this isn't available to you again. So pull out your pen and paper and get started taking notes and get ready to uncover your profitable sweet spot. Okay. The secret number 1, you guys, is you stand out most by super niching. Remember how I told you about all the different differentiators that people think make them stand out? It is hogwash. Unfortunately, years of experience, years of service, quality of service, none of these are differentiated because everybody is saying the same thing. Okay. So what is super niching? It is literally picking one very specific very specific industry and interest group and figuring out one very specific problem that you can help them with. Okay. And think of it like a diamond and pick one facet of that diamond as the problem that you solve, because the problem could be a big problem, but take one facet of that. So, and I'll give you an example of how a client named Jill Williams did it. She owns a company called Telenet. It's an IT company. And their number one problem was they were losing about half their revenue. And if you follow us on LinkedIn, which is where we reached most of you, you will find her in our stream because she's done a live testimonial coming into a training like this. So what she did is she was losing about half of the $4 million of revenue that she had, which is like very scary, right? They were going to have to shut their doors. And she came to me because she was really, really highly motivated to find an incremental revenue stream and to reposition, which is the name of my company, the repositioning expert, reposition what they were doing so that they could stand out. Because no matter how many times she told people that she was an IT company, people were so bored. There are so many IT companies because it was vague, it was broad. What we did is through this process that I'm going to teach you, we found her a super niche with healthcare providers and their call centers and reducing the call wait time to get into, to actually reach the operators. So the name of the sub-brand was called On Hold Rescue. And she was within a couple of months able to sell $805,000 of this new service to an existing client, an existing IT client that she had never, ever considered talking to about this. And all she needed was one splash page, which is just one landing page of a website, and one email, and then phone calls. That's it. And then they welcomed her, and she was able to piggyback onto that and another order and cross-sell and cross-sell. So one of the things that you're going to learn about is the fear of super niching. And the fear of super niching is simply being afraid to go too narrow. Now, that's why I tell you this, that you can use this as an incremental. So do everything the same as what you're doing and use this as an incremental tool. Or you can completely repivot and reposition your entire business if you think there is enough depth and breadth in that super niche to provide prospects for you year over year over year. And that's really what I would prefer for you, because once you get known in your super niche, you really, and it's a good one, you really don't want to have to spend the money, effort, energy to recreate the whole wheel. I'm going to have to take a sip again because my throat is dry. Starting to get cold in Toronto. I don't know. I envy you guys in the South. Okay. So that super niching is picking a very specific industry and a target. And let me tell you about super niching, giving you an example of Baby Logan. Baby Logan's my little guy, right? He's 11 now, but at the time, and you know, when they're babies, you don't know that they're autistic, but this could have had something to do with it. I think it's the 4th month that you're supposed to start to give them solids, right? Babies in the food. And baby Logan refused to eat the solids, because how you're supposed to gradually up them is you're supposed to mix in bigger chunks so that they can start to recognize texture in their mouth, and so they can go on and then graduate into a solid. Well, every time he ran into a chunk, he would choke and stopped eating. Like, he refused to eat anymore. If he saw there was a chunk in it, he would not eat it. Or if he ran into a chunk, he would stop eating. So I was like ballistic. Already, I was 40 years old when I was a mom. That was the first time I was a mom. That was the only time I was a mom. So we're both, I mean, my husband and I were both 40. We're freaking out. The kid won't eat. We're like, he's going to die. And by the way, he was like pretty chunky, but we thought he's going to die. So I hired 4 pediatric nutritionists, right? And yeah, pediatric nutritionists. And I went to all of them, and nobody could help us. They were giving us some crazy advice, like feed him in the car or sit on the floor or roll around with him or play with him, like really bad advice. It didn't work. We tried everything. And finally, one woman felt so sorry for us. She gave us the name of an extreme specialist, you guys. This woman was super niched so finely because she taught moms who had difficulty, just like us, in graduating from mush to solid. Can you imagine this super niche, you guys? The super niche is a pediatric nutritionist who specializes in that 4-month, in that transition. And the woman was in completely on the other side of the country. Her name is Kelly Speck. She was in BC. I'm in Ontario. And I didn't care. I learned, and this is like 11 years ago, right? I learned how to Skype for that woman. And I was not a tech person at all. So she helped us. She was able to help us. Now, what is the benefit of a super niche? From my standpoint, I would pay her anything she wanted. I would have done anything she told me to. She was referred by her so-called competitor, who doesn't see her as a competitor because she's so super niched. And she was on every TV show. She had books, she had everything. And it's because she was so niche that people could pinpoint to her right away, because it was so interesting. She wasn't just a generalist. That's what's available for you, you guys. Remember the story of the IT company with Jill Williams. That's what was available for her. It's always extra revenue to be extra specialized. Again, you don't have to do the whole thing yourself. You don't have to do the whole company to repivot the whole thing, but you can. That's what's possible for you. Okay, so let me give you another example. I had a client who was a wealth advisor. Now, financial advisors, in fact, I spoke to one this morning, but he was in the $1 million club. But most financial advisors, just like most realtors, are not differentiated, and they're not that successful. In fact, I have a blog called Wealth Advisors Who Aren't Wealthy. And sadly, like they're given the training of reaching out to anybody that has a pulse. Basically, it's like saying like anybody that has a pulse can be your, it's like saying to dentists, anybody with teeth, which is like just about everybody, right? So she was having real difficulty getting people to talk to her because they were not interested in talking to a stranger about something so personal and so emotional like money. Nobody wanted to talk to her and she couldn't get new clients. So what we did is we used this super niching to super niche her into an interest group called Divorcing Women. And we didn't just pick this out of a hat. We did the research that I'm going to tell you about, that I'm going to talk about. So the Divorcing Women we found had the number one problem around their finances of thinking that they were going to drop in not just income level, but lifestyle. So if they were driving a Porsche before, they were going to be driving like a Honda after. That was the, the metaphor for how they viewed divorce. And a lot of them were afraid of that. So what the wealth advisor client did is we created a sub brand for her called the divorcingwoman.ca. That was the website. And she started to teach just the concepts of what to look for and to educate people around that topic. And we found that there was like, I think it was 22 meetup groups in Toronto alone around divorcing women. So she was so easily able to find them and to talk to them and to convince them and to convert them. So that's what happens when you become super niched in a very specific group and in their very specific problem as they start to run after you. So I have one more. Example. So Emma Dantas was the CEO and head of a language company. She was a translation company, and they were already crushing it. They had all the government contracts. They had, tons of clients. They were over $1 million company, and one of the best known translators in Canada. And what they wanted was to diversify. They wanted incremental revenue streams because what if they didn't win a bid with the government one year, right? All of their business was in the government. So what we did is we did the whole super niching thing again. What we found, the gap in the market that we found was that nobody is talking about the fact that there is 75% of the world speaks a language other than English. And everybody was doing English-French translations in Canada. So she became a super niche specialist in other languages like Punjabi or Cantonese, and they became the fastest translators of those other languages for marketing agencies, because that's who, when we did the research, we found are the people that we need to go to get to the actual big giant, the Pepsis and the Pizza Huts of the world. Okay. So remember, the secret number one is you stand out by super niching. Okay. So are there any questions? Let me just look at the chat. All right. Are there any questions? Please type it in or unmute yourself. And if there aren't, I'm just going to keep going. Thanks, Jazz, for the comments. That's great. Okay. So secret number two, you guys, and in the secret number two, there is an exercise. So I am going to ask you guys to unmute yourselves and to reveal yourselves again. For those of you who are willing to play, and if you're not, that's okay too. Secret number two, you need to pick a very specific vertical and interest group, and there is a methodology to do that. Okay. So first, let me make the case for why you need a specific industry or interest group. Okay. One is, remember my wealth advisor client, you know where to find them because that's where they self-gather. People only self-gather in two ways. One is by industry and the other is by what they're interested in. So for example, my super niche is teaching elevator pitches to women-owned businesses, like certified diverse businesses, because they have ginormous matchmaking conferences of thousands and thousands of people where they're supposed to keep pitching themselves to corporations. And that's where I come in. I polish their pitches, which we're going to do today on this call. We're going to polish some pitches, because a pitch is the tip of your super niche, of where you reveal your super niche, right? Okay, so the specific industry and interest group, because they self-gather in large numbers together, you don't have to do the heavy lifting. They have the same problems. They're in the same industry or the same interest group, and they have the same language. So recently in one of my trainings, I talked about something called equus. And for those of you who are from a farming background or know about horses or horseback riding, if you've ever heard of something called horse breaking, and a man named Monty Roberts, his father owned a horse farm where horse breaking is bringing a horse from the wild and gentling it to be ridden, to carry stuff and to ride passengers. Now, a horse has a flight. Which one does it have? It has the flight reflex, right? It doesn't fight, it flees, like it runs away. And the way that horses are apparently attacked in the wild is that jaguars are jumping on their back to eat them. Like they get attacked on their back. So they can't stand having something on their back. So that's why in the wild, it takes the female alpha a very specific set of movements, which is their language, which is called equus, which Monty Roberts observed them in the wild. And he saw that the female alpha horse would go up and go close against the wild male and go apart again. And she would come closer and with her shoulders square and come back again. So he imitated, even though he's not a horse, he's a human, he imitated this language that he then called equus. And it worked. What usually took minimum 3 days of excruciating pain of tying the back leg of a horse to the back of the horse and letting it buck in pain and blood and hurting its trainer or, you know, the person who's trying to gentle the horse, went from 3 days to not even touching the horse into, I think it was 3 hours. Yep. If I remember correctly, it went from 3 days to 3 hours. He used exactly the same body language and he called that equus. Now, why am I telling you a story about horses? It's because you need to learn that group's equus. Every industry, every interest group talks about the problem a completely different way, you guys. You may, in the base essence of it, actually help with the same problem in every group, right? It's like the teeth, right? But the way that they handle it, the way that they speak of it, the way that they view it is completely different. And I know because I'm usually talking to B2B. And a lot of the terminology that I use is B2B, you guys. So for those of you guys who don't understand what I'm saying, don't get my language and methodology, it's because usually I am talking to a B2B audience. Now, can what I'm teaching help a B2C audience? Absolutely. But does it serve me better to stick to equus with the group that I've chosen? Always, always. And I can tell you that because my earnings, when I was a vague coach, and then I focused myself into marketing coaching, and then I focused further into a super niche of elevator pitching, my income went incrementally higher and higher and higher and higher. Okay, so why specific industry, or why pick a specific industry or interest group? We talked about, you know where to find them. They self-gather, they have the same problems, and they speak the same language, which is, you know, called equus in the horse language. And then now, how do you pick the industry, you guys, or the interest group? So I want you to write down this scoring. On a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to score 3 criteria. The first criteria is, what is the fit for you? How do you feel about this industry or interest group? What is the fit for your interest level in them? What's the fit for your experience in them? How does it feel to you, right? Your culture. And I'll give you an example. A vegan client wanted to work with one of her largest corporate clients was a meat company, Maple Leaf Foods here in Canada, but she was vegan. So for her, the fit out of a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest possible, was 0. Okay. So write that down. The first is on a scale of 1 to 10 fit for you. So you're going to be making a list of all the industries and all the interest groups. So interest groups are people who are interested in yoga, people who are interested in, autism like me, people who are interested in knitting, foodies, whatever the interest is. It could be stamps, for God's sake. Yeah. So what's Jennifer saying? She's a world prominent neonatal heart surgeon, super niche. Yes, yes. In fact, I have a story about surgeons. There was a woman who was a heart surgeon, and you know what? They wear diapers in operations because it takes so long for the operation, right? And so, oh, it's a he. Yeah. Okay. At Mount Sinai. Oh, okay. We have a Mount Sinai in Toronto too, Jennifer. So what she did is they don't even have time to pee, let alone eat, right? They're doing an operation. So what happened is she found that she was gaining so much weight and it was hurting her. So she found a way to lose weight, and she lost so much weight that all the other women heart surgeon at the hospital came up to her and asked her, can you help us? So she developed an online course that they could just listen to while they were, doing whatever, operating or driving, whatever it is, to help them lose weight. That is a super niche, you guys. She found such a very, very tight, and she became a millionaire just from this additional. This was not her job. This was not her passion. It was just something that she put together to help other women surgeons who did not have the time to eat or work out. So that's what a super niche can do for you. So let me get back to the scoring. Okay. The first score we said was pick the fit for you. The second score is pick the dollar potential from that industry. So if you're going to charge $5,000, $500, I don't care. Just take a guess, and then you're going to do the actual research. But for now, do the back of the envelope. The taking a guess is dollar potential of how much you can earn in that. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood that they would pay you the wages that you want or the fees that you want? Okay. So then the third is, let me give you an example about the dollar potential. A client of mine, well, she wasn't a client. She was actually a networking friend that I met. Her mother died really, really suddenly and in a horrible way. And she was so overwhelmed by the grief that she decided to become a grief coach because she found that she had no support. She couldn't find the kind of support she wanted. And for 2 years, she bartered and starved because nobody was willing to pay her fees, which was $400 a session. And she found that what she was competing with were hospitals that did it for free, hospices, or churches that did it for free. Or people, if they were serious, like stuck in grief, they would go and pay an actual certified psychotherapist, right? Like a doctor for it. So she had to change her super niche. And the reason why she had to change her super niche is because she hadn't gone through this strategic way of figuring out that gap in the market. There's no gap in the market that she was trying to fill. You know, when she's trying to ram something into the square peg in a round hole, there was no gap in the market. So that's where you're going to rate the industry and the interest group for dollar potential. There was no dollar potential for her to make that much money. And the next thing I want you to rate, the third thing, you guys, the third criteria is the access. What is the access to the actual group? Do you know a lot of people in it? Do they have public gatherings where you're allowed to go in? Now it's going to be online. Are they low cost that you can get into? So let me give you another example is a client wanted to sell to lawyers, but she wasn't a lawyer. She didn't know any lawyers. And when she did the research, she found out that in order to network with lawyers and to get into their networking groups, you have to be a lawyer. So unfortunately, she wasn't a lawyer. And so that rating was a 0 for her. Okay. So I want you to take 2 minutes now, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I want you to take 2 minutes to come up with 2 industries and I want you to score them on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best fit for you, plus the dollar potential, plus the access. So the perfect fit would be a 30. So it'd be 10 plus 10 plus 10. And then I'm going to ask for volunteers and we'll go through 1 or 2. Okay? Is this for a niche you want to get into or are possibly in already? No, Laura, it's for something you want to get into, because if you're already in it, you wouldn't need to try to get into it, right? But you could, I mean, you could do the exercise to see if it's a good one and then compare it to another one. So we do this all the time where we're comparing multiple niches and then something emerges that we never even thought about that's better than the one we have. So yeah, you could do both, Laura. Can you clarify item A? So item A meaning the three different ratings is, first is the fit for you, and 2 is, so you're rating based on 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. Okay, the highest fit, the best fit. So I'll give you guys an example. So the fit, yeah, I'll give you an example. When I was starting my career, I looked at, should I become a marketing coach to entrepreneurs or a leadership coach and target HR managers in large companies? The fit for me for marketing coaching to entrepreneurs was a 10 out of 10 because I've been in marketing for 18 years. Leadership, I got the training, but I never did any type of leadership before. So that was an 8. The dollar potential for the marketing coaching to entrepreneurs was entrepreneurs dollar potential I thought would be less, right? So I thought that would be maybe like a 5. And then so that brought me to a 15 with the marketing coaching, but the dollar potential for corporations to pay me what I wanted, that was a 10. So that brought me to an 18 with the leadership coaching. And then I added the 1 to 10 of access. Okay, did I have enough access to entrepreneurs? Oh my God, they're everywhere. So that's a 10. So that was a 25 in total. So 10 fit for me for marketing coaching to entrepreneurs. Dollar potential is a 5 and access is a 10. So 25 in total for the marketing coaching to entrepreneurs. And then the leadership coaching to HR managers, I gave myself an 8 for the fit for me, 10 for the dollar potential, and 2 for the access because I didn't know any HR managers. So that was a 20. So clearly between the 25 and 20, the marketing coaching to entrepreneurs was the winner. So that's what I'm looking for is we can walk through, and if anybody else is struggling with this, we could start with Jennifer. Is anybody ready? Does anybody want to volunteer? Or should we go with Jennifer? So whoever wants to volunteer, if you can unmute and turn on your camera. Yeah, so Yana, go ahead.
So on mine, I'm an email specialist.
Okay.
So I help businesses with things that they assume they know how to do, but then they can't do because it's not as easy as just sending emails that we do regularly at work, right? So the people I think I should be targeting the most would be medium-sized businesses that may have a marketing team, but they're like generalists, they take care of everything. So they can really up the game when it comes to email. They're just sending kind of the same content through it.
Anna, can you give me an industry? So by industry, here's the definition. They have to have a governing body, an association. So give me that. And they have to have like monthly meetings. They have to have LinkedIn groups. They have to have an annual, meeting.
Industry type, like as in like a B2B business that's, selling products on Shopify. Or
Oh, is it online retailers? So do online retailers have an association?
yes, yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And they have a conference?
Yes, they have conferences.
There you go. That's it.
And the biggest problem I've seen is that they talk about all these, very general kind of informations. And, if you have really good subject lines, you'll make millions of dollars. And, how much, working on a subject line won't do that, right?
Great.
So,
Take me through the online retailers and how you scored them. What is the fit for you on a scale of 1 to 10?
10 out of 10. These are the people that I've always worked most.
What about dollar potential? Are they going to pay you what you want?
Yes, they can pay me what I want, as they're established companies that already have people work. They're not like a little entrepreneur that has, a little Shopify website selling products. They're a business.
Okay.
People know them and recognize them as well.
Perfect. So you may want to look at number of employees when you're looking at them. Okay. And then the access. What is your access to the decision makers who are check signers who would hire you at those types of companies?
Where the issue comes up, a lot of the people that I tend to meet are just one level below who I'm trying to get at. And I've been trying to figure out a way to get in front of them immediately, instead of going through employees who will then realize they need help. And the easiest way is through LinkedIn, obviously.
Right. So in terms of your natural networks and the ability to network with them in public events,
yes.
Is there any events that you could attend to meet that higher level decision maker, or right now that's a 0 out of 10?
No, this is very high right now because everybody's online. Like today, I'm here to learn something, and everybody has a little bit more, or at least most people have more time to do all these events. And luckily enough, the events this year have had these more, connecting with other people part to it. So then we get to.
What would you give it out of 10?
I would give it an 8. I think I'm better in person. I miss the in-person style.
You're able to, so 8
Yes,
out of 10, means there's a very good likelihood that you will run into these people either through your own natural networks and community, or through online events that are accessible to you. Not like the lawyers. If you're not a lawyer, you can't get into that.
Yes, exactly.
But okay, perfect. Thank you, Yana. That was a perfect illustration. Thank you so much. Kathy, go ahead.
My niche is supervisors and managers of people who are having high turnover and low job satisfaction.
Okay.
And 2 options would be businesses of less than 25 employees versus businesses of 20.
Okay, Kathy, can you give me an industry that has an association? They have a conference.
Chamber of Commerce members would be potentially.
That's not an industry, Kathy.
That's right.
So give me an industry out of, if you could pick an industry that you knew a lot of people in, that would pay you a lot, that you would give your last dollar to double your business in, that's a really good fit for you. What industry would you pick?
Family-owned businesses would be strong, and there are some associations of family-owned businesses.
I gotcha. That I'm okay with, because you know why? They self-gather, they have their own, networks, they have their own publications, they have their own LinkedIn groups, whatever it is. So that's great, Kathy. That's great. Okay. So Joyce, is it okay if I get to you on the next exercise? But please remember that you're up next on the next exercise, because I want to go on, because we also have our guests. I'm running behind. I've talked so much. Thank you so much, you guys. You can turn off your cameras now. Okay. So what I'd like to do is take you through the secret number 3, which is the last secret. Your super niche has to be based on pain, and 70% purchase based on pain, and people only care about themselves. And what you have to figure out, what is their costliest pain? And if you're B2B, it's always about money. And if it's B2C, it could be emotional cost. It could be health cost, right? So think about, how do you express the pain? And I want you to write down this elevator pitch formula. I want you to write it down. An elevator pitch is only supposed to be about your super niche, and it's to hook in a meeting so then you can cross-sell everything else. So it is who you help, plus their pain, that you help with, plus what you do to help them. And then if you have the time, what the result would be. Okay. So it's who you help plus their pain plus what you do and then the result. Okay. So here's an example of a client who went from just a marketing strategy company. And this is how he used to introduce himself. We're a marketing strategy company who can help you with your marketing needs. It was very vague, very, very, very generic. And we super niched him into this. We help food manufacturers get listed 4 times faster than average in retail stores and help them stay listed 30% longer. Because the number one problem that we found when we did the research for the cookie lady and the sauce guy was they can't get listed into grocery stores. And when they do get listed, they get delisted. Okay, so here's my elevator pitch. Did you know that 3 out of 4 business owners can never get a meeting with a buyer and are never asked for their information after doing their elevator pitch to a prospect? What I do is I fix what they're saying so that every hello turns into a meeting. Okay, so you have the formula, and I'm speeding up here, but what I want you to do is I want you to do your elevator pitch, and then I'm gonna ask for permission to fix it for you. Are you ready? Are you good? All right, let's hear it.
So I know you'll help me with the niche piece, but I'll start with what I have.
Uh-huh.
I help busy professionals learn how to properly, I help busy professionals struggling with their digestion, energy, and sleep with learning how to properly nourish, detoxify, and rejuvenate their bodies from the inside out by focusing on the 2 most overlooked aspects, which are gut health and detoxification, so that they can reclaim their vitality and make the biggest difference in the lives of others.
Okay, sounds great. Do I have your permission to polish? Okay, wonderful. So can you pick an interest group that gathers? What could it be? Would it be like?
I work a lot with artists, entertainers, and creative entrepreneurs or creative agencies. And I also work with a lot of mom entrepreneurs.
Okay, so any of those, I'm okay. Like if you, but just pick one for the sake of this, right? Let's say mompreneurs, right? Okay, or artists, because I know you told me you were an artist, right? Former artist. So then you could say artists, because artists do have their own networks, right? So you could really literally get in there and network crazy and say you only help artists. And so what is, you talked about 3 big problems here: digestion, energy, and sleep. Which is the most emotionally costly?
Well, we would focus on the digestion because I would help the other 2 aspects once we just focus on the digestion.
Right. What would come out, Joyce, out of the survey if we did, if when we work together, we figure out first after the rating, we figure out the actual research, we go and we ask them is what they think is their biggest problem, not what you think is the underlying problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what do you think they would say is the number 1 problem?
Energy.
Okay. And what does lack of energy cause them to not do, or what happens if they have no energy?
Poor performance.
In their business?
Poor professional performance. They're not showing up for their kids the way they want to. There's displaced anger. They can't finish work on time. So now they're working overtime. They have less time with their family. It's just, when you don't have your health, it overpours into every aspect of your life.
Perfect. So what I want you to do is I want you to, again, figure out what is the number 1 problem, the top of the problem. So is it causing a breakdown in their marriage? Is it causing a breakdown in their, like they're going bankrupt? So you have no energy. And did you know 3 out of 4 artists are going out of business, or mompreneurs are going out of business because they have no energy to spend on their business, or they're getting divorced. 3 out of 4 are getting divorced because they have no energy. Well, what I do is I work on their gut health and a detox, and use a detox to help them reclaim their lost performance, or their lost vitality in their business, or the lost opportunities in their business. Do you see how you have to get to the top of the pain, and you have to pick very specifically. So what you talked about was a big pain, but I made you pick just one facet of the pain. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for volunteering. All right, so is Dale here?
Hello.
Everyone, I want to introduce you to my friend and client, Dale Curtis of Dale Curtis Communications. He and I have been working together for over a year, and he is a true success story. He's coming off a really big high today based on the email that I saw. And I wanted you guys to meet him because I want him to give you a perspective on focusing, niching, and the whole process of what it was like for him and what his transformation and his business transformation was like. So let's start with, how we met, Dale, and what business problem you had that made you decide to work together.
Sure. And should I just start out by saying I'm a public affairs PR specialist in Washington, D.C. The company is aptly named Dale Curtis Communications, and we provide content and communications outreach solutions to associations and companies that are looking to take their communications to the next level, especially in Washington. It's not B2C, it's not B2B, it's mostly B2G, business to government.
Love that, yeah.
So when I met Shala, it was at a conference. She was doing what she's telling you about. She was going to a conference where there were lots of business owners looking to polish their elevator pitch. In this particular instance, the conference I was at provided networking with buyers reps of major companies. So you would have 15 minutes with these folks to make your pitch and make an impression. And if they liked you and they thought there was a potential connection, they might introduce you to someone within the company. So I saw Shala's workshop. I thought, this is perfect, right? I went in, I heard what she described about the bad kind of elevator pitch. And I thought, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm doing. It's terrible. So we had a little chat about it. And what I was doing was just being too vague and generic and giving a laundry list of everything I could possibly do for any industry that you might possibly imagine, right? And it just washes over people, and you don't stand out when you pitch yourself that way.
Was there any resistance inside of you to focusing so narrowly?
Yeah, there was. I mean, it just seems counterintuitive to narrow down your targets, right? And I'm a generalist. I admit it. I'm a liberal arts major. I can do anything for anybody, right? But no, it helps the listener to catch on to what you're talking about if the more specific you can be. And also the whole idea of focusing on the client's pain points. It seems obvious now, but it was new to me then. And a lot of times I would pitch myself as my service is something it would be nice for you to have. Your company ought to have effective communications in Washington, but that's not as effective as asking them, how are your communications in Washington? Where are you falling short? What are you lacking? What's the consequence of that? Does that have a dollar consequence for you? And you start getting all these answers about their pain points, and they're feeling a need to do something about it, right? Because no one wants to deal with pain. They want to get rid of it. So you get a much better response that way.
I love it. Tell them the story of what happened at the lunch that you had. Was it a month after we started working together? 2 weeks after? I can't remember. And then when you talked to them in a different way based on their pain.
It was about a month after we started working together. So I was still brand new to your whole system and had not really implemented much, but I had an opportunity to sit with a senior executive of a company who was responsible for communicating about a particular problem that they were dealing with the government on this problem. And in one conversation, using the script that Shala gave me, I was able to land a contract that was worth about $120,000. One meeting. And typically my business development takes so much longer because, again, it's just a little different. It's just a little bit different from the kind of communications that most people are used to. So it takes a while usually to explain it and to buy them in. But with this script, man, she at the end of the conversation, I said, when can I send you an agreement? I'll send you an agreement when I get back to the office, basically.
That's amazing. So talk to me about what kind of confidence you've gained from having such a clear idea on your messaging and on your target from the day we started till today.
Right. And I'll tell you, sitting with those corporate buyers a year ago, in my head, I was lacking confidence because I felt like I'd made this pitch so many times and never got much of a response. So I was not even pitching myself with confidence. But one of the things that we worked on early on was calling people in my niche market, right? Talking to them about what their problems are. And this was in a particular industry sector that I knew well because I had done some work for their industry association, and now I was calling the leading companies in that association. So I was able to get to know their pain points. I was able to position myself as a knowledgeable person on their industry. And that just starts to give you more and more confidence as you're talking to more prospects, and you can say, well, I was just speaking to a CEO the other day about that problem. You see the difference?
Talk to me about the mindset of investing. I know, like right now it's COVID, right? Like people are in stress. A lot of people are in stress. There's economic stress, and you were in stress then. So talk about how you made the leap to doing that investing.
Right. At the time we met, I was at a pain point. I was looking at some projections that my business was going to go into the red next month, and red as far as I could see. And I was going to have to make some drastic decisions about whether to go on. And in that sort of mindset, the thought of making a commitment to, a financial investment in a coach, my first reaction was probably, well, that would be nice. But then when I put it in perspective, this was the amount I was going to pay you was equivalent to about 3 to 6 months of revenue from a medium to large size client that I would hire, that I would get. So if I can't pick up 1 or 2 or 3 clients from working with this person, then, that would be pretty pathetic. So I had confidence that I could pick up at least 1 and pay back. And I had to do something.
Yeah.
The way I had been working for a couple of years up to that point was not working. And I needed someone who knew what they were doing to guide me through a process and get me on a better track.
What were some of the things that you did that didn't work, Dale?
I chased a lot of leads just because I thought they might be interested in me. I did a lot of networking where I would go to groups that were interesting and nice parties and collect the business card, have a little chit chat. But that's just like, I don't know it's like chasing fireflies or something, right? You're trying to get one here, you're trying to get one there. It wasn't focused or driven by a strategy. And the lack of confidence, I think comes across. Whereas now I have more confidence because it's based on some research and it's based on a niche that I know really well. So I'm not trying to sell myself as the answer to everything.
Is there any last, words of advice to people who are thinking about super niching and working with a coach like me? I
would just say one of the things I've always enjoyed about working with you, Shala, is that you always have immediate actionable ideas. Whatever is on my mind in a given conversation, from time to time when we talk, you've got a thought and you've got a plan. And in fact, this is what I'll close with. Yes. We had our regularly scheduled call on this past Friday. I mentioned to you that the industry association that I'm so tuned into, right? Their annual conference is this week. It's online and it's part of it's in person. But as of Friday, I hadn't planned what to do for networking or outreach for this conference, which is ridiculous. But Shala says, well, you've got to do a webinar. I was like, okay. And you should do it the day before the conference, so it'll be on their mind all week long. okay, well, the day before the conference is Monday, as in yesterday. So from Friday to Monday, I was able to pull this off because number one, we had worked on my core presentation with my core elevator pitch and great examples that point back to my elevator pitch. So I already had that presentation in the can. Plus I had my list of people from all of my niche calling.
Yeah.
So on Friday afternoon, I made about 20 phone calls and emails. I was able to pull together the presentation for the weekend. 4 people showed up, but it was a CEO and 2 VPs with decision-making authority. So I was able to talk to 4 people yesterday in depth about their problems, and I never would have spoken to them otherwise, probably.
So amazing. Have you ever heard of the saying that it's not that I ran a marathon, it's that I dared? I mean, this is it. You have come so far from when we met to throwing together an executive roundtable with top level CEOs in 3 days. Like, that's really, even for my clients, that's unheard of. So congratulations, Dale. You have something to celebrate with Lamar.
I appreciate that, and I still got more to learn, but I'm getting better and better.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Jennifer's a marathoner, 11 years strong. Awesome. Thank you, Dale. Stay tuned for the rest of it. We're going to be done at 4:30 if you guys still want to keep talking to me. So at this point, thank you so much for your help, Dale, and keep the success going. And we love seeing you. We're going to see you again and again. All right. So I hope you guys can see, I hope you guys can hear the conviction in Dale's voice about how he focused himself, he had a super niche, he had a clear target, he had a clear message in mind, and how that helped him without even getting deep into the super niche. He was able to just take that framework and be able to work it into a conversation at lunch and turn it into $120,000 lunch, you guys. And that's what I want for you. So which piece of the things that I taught you today can you implement? And even if you were to do 10% of what you learned today, what could you do for your business that you didn't do and didn't know about before? So you know now that you have the power to go out and take action. And if this is what you need, if you think creating a super niche and an incremental revenue stream is the way for you to go, and you've learned enough in this short time that we've had together, go and crush it. And I want to hear about your success. But if you need the kind of accountability, the kind of hand-holding, the strategies, the templates, the whole methodology and the structure that Dale has, and if you're interested in hiring someone like me, please go to schedule a call at repositioner.com/schedule. Now there's a lot more people here than there are slots, but so please email me or my team, and you have more than one email from us. So you can just hit reply on any of those reminders and it'll come back to me. Or you can go to chala@repositioner.com to email me if you have a more urgent need to talk to me, but you cannot get in the schedule. Because as I said, there's more of you here than there are slots in my schedule, unless you want to talk to me in, like March. So yeah, reach out to us. So if you want to skip over the trial and error and you don't want to have to fall down and learn, and the way that it took me so long when I was wrong and trying for months and months, and for Dale years and years and years to do it on your own, that's when you should really look at scheduling a call with me. So here are the things that we're going to talk about in the call. We're going to clarify your unique gift. We're going to talk about that super niche. We're going to talk about the market gap and see what market gaps could exist for you and your unique, because it's a marriage of the two. And then we'll put a plan in place for your next steps. And if we both think there's a fit, you can ask me what it looks like, because I have more than one option and I have more than one program, and I will base it on what you need. So why super niching strategically with this technique is different than any others that I've seen is, one, nobody that I've seen in the market is doing market-based marketing strategy recommendation based on 18 years of product marketing and product launching. So I want you to understand that this comes from 18 years of consumer packaged goods background, where I used to launch these products, and now you're a product. And so I've written and done and employed millions of dollars of research. And I have taken that and made it into a small bite-sized portion that you can do in 2 weeks. And usually clients do it from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on your speed. So the other thing is it's customized to your business. So there's no, cookie cutter. Here is a recorded segment. I mean, we have recorded stuff, but it's just as a supplement. It is not as a standalone. And then why this works is because it's incremental, what you do and what you have. So it's not entirely changing everything. It could be just, throwing up a new super niched landing page and an email, or it could just be a lunch that you have, or it could just be just one event that you do, just like Dale did, which was, he had an event that was going on. He threw up, a couple of calls, he threw out an email, and he got high level decision makers in his network to come and talk to him. So remember, in the call, we're going to talk about what gap there could be in the market, how you could be fulfilling that market, and what the next steps for you and your marketing plan are, and what it looks like to work with me, and what I'm going to recommend, which program I'm going to recommend that you invest in. So again, please go ahead and schedule at repositioner.com/schedule. And I'm going to open it up for questions. And if there are any questions, please write them into the chat. And in the meantime, I will tell you who super niching is for and working with me is for, and who it's not for. Who it's for is people who have the urgency to make more money now. This morning, I had a sales call with the gentleman that I was telling you about, who, is an investment advisor, and he has $1 million portfolio. And he frankly said, I don't want to work anymore. I am so happy to be partially retired, and I really am enjoying COVID. So I'm not really in a stress to make any money. That's not the person that I want to be on those calls with me. I want someone who is really urgently determined to make money, to invest money to make money, and to bring something new to their plate and to their business. People who are afraid to reach out to people that they know, like Dale was, but he was willing, and he was willing to pay to learn how to do it better. And through our work together, we changed his mindset, and we were able to give him the confidence and the clarity to reach out to the people that he knew he needed to. So if that's the kind of person that you are, that you're willing to take that leap and that risk, please go ahead and book with me. The other people that I want to work with is the people who are open to the idea of shrinking to grow. To some people, it is completely too scary and too unbelievable. So if you can't even accept the idea of a super niche, then I'm probably not the best coach for you, because that's what I'm going to teach you. And then people who want to invest in learning new skills in marketing, messaging, and selling, because they're just tired of spending money on just a louder voice, more advertising, more visibility, but it's not getting you anywhere. One of my most recent high-level clients, my VIP client, we've been in the same program together for our media training. And she's been on all the stages that I named you. She's taken all the TV training, and she's visible as anybody, but she has no business because she didn't have a super niche. She doesn't have the wherewithal and the direction and the strategy and the marketing plan to go and get the kind of client that she wants to work with. Okay, so now who is not for is people who are happy where they are. I'm happy for you. People who see investing as scary and they want to do it themselves. And, that's fine. I talked to some lovely, lovely people who are willing to do that. And that's what they were taught. And that's how they always want to remain. And that's okay too. And then people who expect to do nothing different and get results, I can't help those people. And then people who don't implement and they just decide that it's just too hard what I'm teaching them. They just go buy another coaching program, or they hire another rep and hope that things are going to change. Well, if you own your own business and you don't know how to sell yourself, then I don't think any sales rep is going to help you, because You're the one who's responsible for drawing the map of where they need to go, of giving them the strategy. And if you're an architect, how are you going to do a blueprint, right? I always give the example of, if you don't know where to go, how are they supposed to go? And like building a house, you're not even allowed to build a house in in any city without a blueprint. So get the blueprint, and I'm the architect for businesses. What else do I want to tell you? It doesn't look like there are any questions. Are there any questions about super niching, about working with me, about anything that we've talked about today, or even any questions to Dale that you'd like to ask? Please go ahead and type it in. If not, remember to book on repositioner.com/schedule so that we can have a chat about what working with me looks like for your business and what you need as a next step to grow. And I hope this has been helpful for you guys. And for those of you who are going to go ahead and book, I'm so happy to meet with you. And for the rest of you, thank you for the gift of your time, because it is a gift for you to have spent this time learning from me. It is my privilege to teach this to you. And if you take even 1/10 of what I'm sharing with you, I'm so happy that it's going to help your business. So again, reach out to me and my team. And Dale, yeah, how do you find their pain point? How do you find their pain point? Ask them, what's your greatest challenge when it comes to X? Yes, that's great. That's great. Yes, that's exactly how you do it. And there's a whole process and a whole way to reach out to people. And there's a whole customized questionnaire that we have that we build together based on your target and on your super niche. And, it's based on guesses to begin with, but then it gets polished. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. And I look forward to seeing you guys.